Hi, this is Jules with Haverford Township Free Library, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 online resources that every animator or cartoonist ought to know about. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, so here's my list of the 5 online resources that I think every animator or cartoonist or even illustrator ought to know about. I want to point out, even if you're more interested in illustration or less cartoony comics, these resources are still incredibly useful. First, Preston Blair and his animation book. I've mentioned him a couple times before, and there's a good reason for that. His book is one of the most foundational books for animation and character design ever. Cartoonists and animators use it all the time still. It breaks down to the very baseline how to create appealing character designs and start animating them. So this resource is important if you're planning to develop your skills in either of those areas. We have his book on animation in our library if you want a hard copy of it, but until then you could go on the website, the Internet Archive, and look at it because they have the whole thing scanned there. So he starts with basic construction of faces and heads and bodies, their skeletons, their body structure, and then it goes into facial expressions and what the face does when it moves into the expression. He goes on to hands, different kinds of characters, like the cute character, the silly characters and goofy characters, meaner characters, and he goes into all different kinds of animals. Then he goes on to talk about the basics of movement for characters, just different kinds of walks, what the body does as it moves in different ways. He talks about walks, runs, fast runs, sneaking, skipping. Later on in the book, he gets more into detail about technical specifics just to improve and enhance your animating or your cartooning. He talks about timing, how to line up the voiceover with the movement of the mouth of the characters. He talks about backgrounds, and then gets really technical at the very, very end. So basically, this book appeals to a very wide range of skill levels. And again, we have this book on hard copy at the library, but until then you could just go in the Internet Archive and look at it. Next, we have a blog called Temple of the Seven Golden Camels. It's been around for a while. It's a blog run by this animator and storyboard artist named Mark Kennedy, who does a lot of lectures on animation and has worked on a lot of movies. So he has a variety of posts. Some of them are single posts, and others are like a series of ideas. I talked about his series on squash and stretch in a previous video. He talks about a big range of ideas and a lot of theory stuff that applies to other things besides just cartooning. Here's one of his posts. It's a several-part series. It's called A Kick in the Head, but it's talking about sometimes when we're sketching something in kind of a messy way, sometimes we feel like, oh, this isn't working, and for some reason we try to clean up the lines to fix it when really the problem is not that the lines are messy, but just that we set the whole thing up wrong and that we kind of just need to start from the beginning. And that's just really great observation, and I'm guilty of that myself. And then he just kind of goes further into the theory of that kind of thing for this particular series. But he has a lot of stuff just like this. Next up we have the Etherington Brothers, Robin and Lorenzo Etherington. These guys are amazing. Their book is called How to Think When You Draw, and it's actually one of the most successful art books on Kickstarter ever. I don't think they're animators, but they're cartoonists and they're writers, and their ideas lend themselves very well to animation. And so if you're interested in developing art for video games too, they have posts about that as well. Their main series, I'd say, is one called How to Think When You Draw. It's just an absolute goldmine of amazing tips, showing you how to think of stuff while you're drawing in a different way. Look at this amazing list of posts. Look at all the variety. There's everything from expressions to composition, typography, how to set up a scene, fabric, forests, robots, textures, structures. It's like there's nothing that they can't do. Here's one of their posts from their series that I talked about in a previous video about happy expressions. So there's basics like this, but then they have all this technical stuff like using triangles for composition as a layout device. Here's one about just drawing fabrics like capes. Then there's difficult stuff like this, like drawing ice. Ice is hard to draw. And there's posts on using negative space correctly, an incredible variety of wonderful tips. I love these guys, and they're still posting new stuff all the time, and it's amazing. This blog, Deja View, is very near and dear to my heart. Andreas Deja is the one that runs it. He's a Disney animator. I'm using the word goldmine a lot, but it's like every post is a goldmine on his blog. He has also an incredible variety of things as well. He posts about historical cartoonists and what we can learn from them. He posts all these pencil tests, which if you don't know, pencil tests are exactly what they sound like. It's animators' tests for a scene drawn with pencil, which I love looking at. Here's one right here from his blog. That's great. Since he was part of Disney, he has access to all this stuff. Sometimes he posts about other animators and the other kind of work that they do, because he really cares about telling people that if you want to be a cartoonist, an animator, or whatever, you still need to form your skills by practicing real-life drawing, expanding your skills by looking into different kinds of art, learning structure. He'll have these posts where he just breaks down certain movements in an animated movie that are particularly good, just kind of breaking them down into pieces and explaining them. And then I'll have all this wonderful character development art when the creators are still trying to decide what a character is going to look like. So definitely check this blog out. And finally, we have the website Animation Resources. The title is very vague. As you can see, it's because it's more like an archive than anything. It's just crammed with a ton of different things. They have all kinds of different art stuff. Animation, cartooning, illustration, theory, ways to participate. It's kind of like an animation sort of hub. There's different indexes of articles. Like this one here, there's an animation index that just kind of sends you off into all these different articles from different eras. The instruction page has a whole index of different articles on different things like drawing, painting, design, writing, reference, all these different things. The theory page has aesthetics, advice, all kinds of different things. There's posts about composition, and if you're more interested in illustration rather than animation, there's an illustration page too with its own index of different articles from a bunch of different eras and in a bunch of different styles. So it's a great interactive archive, and hours just kind of disappear when you're on here. There's just so much to see. So those are my 5 online resources that I think every animator or cartoonist should know about. And as I said, I think that if you're more interested in illustration or less cartoony comics, these resources are still really useful. And I would love to hear about your favorite online resources for art, whether they be about fine art, cartooning, whatever. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you later.